So my concern in the world of wheat and gluten intolerance is, it's amazing how many people feel some distress. And if they were tested, you might find out that they're not clinically gluten intolerant, or I'm sure that's a continuum. But I think this actually has to do with our food supply. So in a lot of foods that we grow, historically, there were multiple brands of or types of bananas and corn and wheat, et cetera. And in the US, we pretty much grow one kind of corn and one kind of wheat, monocropping, massive amounts. And Americans in particular, of all the grains that people eat around the world, Americans eat wheat. I actually had to do a paper one time where we were sort of trying to determine how much protein came from different sources, how much from meat, how much from dairy, how much from grains. And I was very intrigued to see that this USDA database said, here's our value of protein from grains. And by grains, we mean wheat and oats and rice and quinoa and everything, with a little footnote that said, because 90% of the grains Americans eat is wheat, we basically just used the wheat value for this, and we didn't use the others. And I thought, oh my God, with rice and oats and everything else out there, 90% of the grains Americans eat is wheat. But think about it, bagels, pastry, breakfast toast, breakfast,
even pizza crust.
Crust.
Yeah.
And this is insane, guys, because that's just the nitpick. I mean, that's literally our diet. 50% of our diet is grains. And within that, we're going to find different factors. What they don't talk about, and I haven't watched the whole podcast, is that all of those grains are sprayed with herbicides and pesticides, glyphosate. And typically when we look at the molecular structure of what actually happens when damage from gluten actually occurs, is actually we are finding more so that glyphosate, actually the pesticide, herbicide on these structures, are what causes this immune response. So even if we don't have an actual allergy or sensitivity to gluten, maybe it's actually the pesticide or the herbicide glyphosate that's causing this upregulation. But when we're eating 50% of our diet in that spectrum with everything that he just said, we're going to have some issues. And clinically, we may not find that. You may not have a wheat germ allergy. You may not have a gluten allergy. You may not have celiac, but you're darn well sure that you might have some sensitivity to it. And you have to have the specific testing through IgA testing, IgG testing, as well as other factors, and clinically looking at the patient for what there is. This is an epidemic. This is a huge epidemic, and it's only getting worse. Genetically modified foods, monocropping is the death of this country. I can guarantee it. We've seen it for years. Everybody's sicker, and you know it.